I'm going to go ahead and get started. We don't have a lot to cover today, so we're okay starting late, but I want to make sure everybody's out of here at the end of their lunch hour. So we'll call the meeting to order at 12:07. And there's a stack of agendas, the budget we're going to sunshine today, and the minutes from September 27th and from June 1st, the previous meeting, because Kathy wasn't here. Has anybody had a chance to read the meeting minutes from either of those 2 dates? We'll do June 1st first.
I move to accept the June 1st minutes as written.
Okay, can I get a second? Mike? Right? Matt, sorry. I'm still learning everybody's names. Okay, so moved. Are there any objections? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Minutes are passed for June 1st. So we'll move to the minutes for September 27th. And I believe under executive committee, Jamie Jack's unit 9 rep was left off, so he will be added and that will be updated. Are there any other changes to the minutes?
Under the president's report, about the third line from the end, we're missing a word vote. So that line starts Prop 55, indicating that a yes vote on its ballot initiative, blah, blah, blah.
Okay,
And
Kathy will add the word.
And then on the chief steward's report, I was not very clear. And I just discussed this with Kathy. And so on the back side of the page, we'd like to add a little bit for clarity, and I hope you don't mind. So it reads, there was a brief discussion of probation periods. These must be negotiated before the position has been accepted. And what that was about was when staff believe that they've been working out of class and they fill out request for classification review. Hoping to get a reclass. Well, if it's determined that yes, you have been working out of class for more than a year, then you might be able to negotiate a shorter period for your probation in the higher classification. So that's like too much to write. So we just want to say this has to do with the position description project and working out of class for a long period of time.
Anybody have any questions with regard to that addition? Okay.
Yes, parking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes, parking. Instead of yes, parking.
The last paragraph of the chief steward's report, the last full line, it says, and Cal Poly SLO have designated staff and guest parking. Not that they have to guest for parking. Okay, any other additions to that?
So I move that we accept as amended the September 27th minutes.
Okay, the second?
I'll second the motion.
Nick, Seamus? Okay. All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion motions are approved for September 26th. Okay, so I'm going to do kind of the president's report / treasurer's report. Chris Shire is not able to make it here today, and our backup, Jamie Jack, is not able to make it today. So on the back side of the agenda is the proposed 2017 budget that the executive board has approved. And what will happen now, we need to sunshine this budget. So for the next 30 days, it's left open for you guys to review, to ask questions, and bring them to either Chris Shire, Jamie Jackson, or myself, and we can answer those questions. And this is, with the exception of one line item, 5304 CSEA committee meetings, we no longer have those. With our sister union, the union that we're umbrellaed under, I guess is probably a better way to explain it. Because we don't have those meetings, I will not be attending those. There's no need for monies in there. We moved the $200 into the very first expenditure, 5101 chapter meetings. So after a period of 30 days, we'll announce another meeting date. It'll probably just be a 30-minute meeting for everybody to come vote, and then the budget would be passed. And the 30 days is for, like I said, questions you guys can bring to us, and we can answer those for you in the interim. Are there any questions on that process? All right, so now I'm going to turn it over to our Vice President, James Deathlison. We've got some good stuff that everybody, oh, one last thing, sorry, James. I have two boxes up here with the 2017 calendar and the pocket calendar for 2017 as well. They are free, they're up here at this front table. Please take one before you go, so I don't have to lug them back tomorrow.
Turn this thing
Okay. I figure since I took on the role of VP, I've been working with a few people that have, including myself, regarding equity issues on campus in terms of wages. And so I thought I'd put together a little presentation talking about when, so if you're doing your in-range progression, there's those bullet points that talk about workload and performance and things like that. One of those bullet items is equity, which comes down to equal pay amongst classifications, whether they're the same position in the department, the same position in the school, or the same position in the university. And so, anyway. For what, does anybody know how equity works on campus as far as wages go? Yeah, I had no idea. And well, and it wasn't until last year when President Mitchell set up the program, the equity program for staff, that we kind of had an idea of what it is that we're kind of dealing with. And so I'm basically basing those that equity memorandum. I'm using that as the foundation for how we can determine equity within your classification and comparing that with other people. So I guess we'll go to. So there's the memorandum that was on June 18th, 2015, and at the main gist of it is the president outlined the issue of salary compression. Does anybody have an idea what salary compression is? Yeah, I had no idea either. And so I had to look that up. And essentially what happens when your salary gets compressed is, and these are for people that have been working here an extended period of time, someone gets hired into your classification and they're at the current market rate. And of course HR is keeping track of market rates for employees, and they're trying to attract a certain skill level and a certain person of talent. What will happen is they'll come into your position and they'll be at a higher salary than you, right? Does everybody kind of have, yeah, okay. So that means your salary is compressed and your experience and the skills you've acquired in the time you've been here are not being compensated. Now, we jump back to the whole IRP process in general. It's up to us to make sure that we're making, that we're at least keeping up with the market in terms of salaries. But until now, we had no idea what the numbers were regarding that thing. Okay, so beyond the salary compression issue he also outlines what two equity groups. Okay, the first group were people that have completed 11 years of service up to completing 15 years of service. And HR determined that the employees in that group were at should be at minimum the 26th percentile of their salary range. Okay, the next group are employees that are here 16 years and over, and on that 16th year, you should be at your 51st percentile of your salary range. Okay. Does anybody know their salary range for their given classification? Oh, good. That's really good. Excellent. If you don't, we'll talk about how to find that, and we'll talk about how to go through the process of establishing what we call a minimum equity salary. Okay? And what you would do is when we get through this, you'll want to take that minimum equity salary and compare it to your current salary. Okay? So first off, we got to get a couple things out of the way here. This is a really good quote I saw about salary compression. Pretty straightforward. If a current employee is performing at or above expectations, then their salary should increase to more than what their new colleague is making. And you can check that out on workforce.com. Just do a Google search for salary compression. It'll be like the top hit. Can't get any more clear than that. Okay. So how many of you, if we're talking about those two groups, we got 11 to 15 years, and then we got over 16 years. How many of you are under 11 years right now? Does anybody?
Does that include when you just got reclassed last year with that whole reclassification thing they did?
Yes.
Kind of. If you are in a classification that has skill levels, like a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4, no. That's not technically, it is a reclass, but it's what's called an in-class progression, so you still go after your higher date. However, let's say you were someone's going to have to help me. What's the support before coordinator? Is that assistant? ASA, Administrative Support Assistant. Thank you. All right, let's say you started there. And about 3 or 4 years later, you get reclassed to an ASC. All right, that's a pretty common matriculation through as far as reclasses go. You'll have two different dates then. You'll have your start date and then you'll have your reclass date. And depending on what happens there, they might hold you to that reclass date. And if that reclass date falls at a lower, ideally, because you're being reclassed, you are making more money. So it should be higher or should be in line with what you already have. I do know of a case, though, where we had an employee, when we did her IRP, it turns out, had she stayed in the original classification, she would have made that 16-year group and would have been making about $300 more a month than she currently is in her new class. So even though there's a reclass issue there, always double check how long you've been here in general, no matter what your classification is. And if you need to, take your old classification just to kind of get a sense of, well, if I had not been reclassed, would I be making more money than I am now? Because the bottom line is, you've been here a long time, you've gained a lot of skill, and you've gained a lot of experience with the way this campus works, and that is of value to this institution. Okay? All right, so we got our groups. So with those two groups, essentially there's a third group that the president just didn't mention, and those are the employees from the first year to year 10. Okay? So I just went ahead and put together a little breakdown. So at year 11, if we know year 11 you're supposed to be at the 26th percentile, we can just kind of go back and see how these percentiles work for people that fall under that. So if you know how long you've been here and it's under it's 10 years or less, these are the years, how many years you've completed service. Those are the percentile increases that you should be seeing. Okay? So when I say salary range percentile, that is just the number that has to do with your range. Okay? Now everybody's classification has a different range. Even in the same classifications with different levels, each level has a different range. The lower the classification, typically, the narrower the range. Okay? So keep that in mind. So now we can see the breakdown for the 11 to 15 year group. Notice now, oh here, let me back up 1 second. Notice that that range is about 2.37. If you take 2.37 and you just carry it all the way across those additions, you're going to end up at the 26th percentile. Notice what happens when you're an 11 year to 15 years. Anybody here? 11 years to 15 years? Okay, right here. I'm with you guys. Now look what happens. Between 11 to 16, we're now at 5. We're increasing by 5 every year. So even though in that memorandum that the president sent out, it said 11 years at 26, 16 years at 51, well, what happens when you're a 14-year employee? Well, if you're 14 years, you should be at the 41st percentile. You shouldn't be down at 26. Okay? Is that all kind of making sense right now? All right. I know there are people in the 16 plus group. Does anybody here fall into that? Oh, wow. Okay. So this is where we're kind of on our own. You're just going to I just kind of said, okay, well, I can't imagine working longer than 26 years, but I know people do. So, yeah, it's like, I had to stop at 26. Like, I was starting to tear up. I couldn't see the screen. And so what I did here was just take our, starting at year 16, at year 51. But this is really important because you're going to, if you're going to retire, you need to be at the highest of your range as possible. So let's just say if we take a 4.37 and we just run it across the range, at your 26th year, you're still not going to be at the top. Still won't be at the top. Okay? Another thing is, too, the faster you move along, as the union, as we bargain for general salary increases, those increases get larger because they're percentage based, all right? So this is really important for us to kind of move through. All right, so here's the, I'll talk about one more thing. I'm not a numbers person, so there might be someone here who has a lot more experience with these kinds of things, but my thought was we just kind of run through the steps to figure out your minimum equity salary. The idea there is that if you're above it, great. That means the equity portion of your IRP you don't have to worry about. You can work on performance, and you can work on workload or any of the other bullet items there in your IRP. However, if you're below this minimum salary, equity salary, then right there you need to say, boom, I'm filing an IRP. And I had a guy just the other day who was, I think it was like $40 below. Well, that's okay. Yeah, he needs to file an IRP no matter what. And then of course there are other things go play into that. And we know that minimum IRP is going to be 3%. Which in that case will push them over if we need to. All right, so let's talk about what we got to do to get this done. Oh yeah, go ahead.
That,
do you need to go back?
You had, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that many years in the same classification.
Yes.
Because every time you reclass,
right,
the clock starts again.
Right. But again, I just want to look. I want to say that's because primarily the reclass should be bringing you more money. But it is not a slam dunk, folks. You could get reclassed and actually, and over a period of time, be making less had you not been reclassed. Okay? So I understand the memorandum and I understand what's being said, but now we know what the numbers are, and there's nothing saying that we can't do our own numbers. After all, these are minimums. So we can apply these and make it higher or lower, higher ideally for what we're trying to do, for what we're trying to achieve. Okay. But yes, I imagine there's going to be. I don't know how many people have gotten through the IRP, like an employee initiated IRP. Okay. So did you ask for more, and did they come back and ask you to negotiate, or?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a little back and forth? Okay. So you typically want to aim high anyway?
Yeah, they
Oh.
give you the lowest.
Right? Okay, there you go. So with that in mind, it's always good to know where you stand as far as your total time here on campus. All right, so let's talk about, well, we got our basics. I know this is kind of funny, but we need to know our classification, and if it has a skill level, the actual skill level. That also includes our time base. Any 1012s in here? 1012 employees? So I am the only one. 1112s. Okay, good. 1112s and 1012s. This is interesting too. How long does it take to do an IRP? It's 90 days.
90 days.
Okay, so if you're an 11-month, you're like maybe 2 or 3 months in to your service year, and you're like, dude, I got to do an IRP. Well, it's going to take 3 more months. Okay, so now you're halfway through your service year, and now you're just going to find out that you got for your So I guess what I'm saying is, if you know your time, you know your exact hire date, depending on when you file, you might want to ask for the next year, or factor in that next year with your minimum equity salary, because it's very possible they could give you the IRP, and then as soon as that next service year comes, you're going to have to do another one, and do another one, and do another one, right? Okay, so for those of you that did the IRPs, and they were employee initiated, do you have an idea of how long it took? No, for you to actually do your IRP, or assuming that no one did it for you, like you didn't have an MPP do it for you.
Oh, like how long it took to write up?
Yep.
Maybe a week, like if you put Jennifer, you go back and check it.
Okay, so what but not a full work week, right? So maybe
No, not full.
8
Couple
hours?
Yeah, a couple hours.
Couple hours? Okay. So now think about this. Right now we're supposed to be doing IRPs, and in this case, if we look at this, the way this data, the way these numbers are moving, theoretically we could be doing an IRP every year or every other year. Okay? Now you times that, you take that out by the 400 employees we have on this campus versus the however many employees we have system-wide, and that's an insane amount of workload going into just making sure we meet our equity for salary. So if anything is a good argument for bringing steps back, this is turning out to be an okay one. All right, so we got our classification, we have our higher start date, and we know our current salary. All we got to do, and HR can help you with that. We can help you with that too if you need help finding that stuff. We jump on over to, we got to find what's called our salary range value. All right. So we go to this is the statewide human resources page. We go in there, there's going to be a basic search. You type in your AAS or ASA or ASC, or in my case ITC. You'll find the ranges. Be careful on your skill levels and your time bases. They're going to have them all broken out. So it can be kind of like a big spreadsheet. Find your minimum, find your maximum. You subtract that. That's your salary range value. Okay? Hold that number, because that's the number we base all of our equity stuff off of. Okay? So now we run over to our minimum equity salary. How do we find that? Okay. So we take our years of service. So let's just jump back real quick. Let's find something here. Let's take, since there might be some people that are in the, so let's take our 4-year employee, right? 4-year employee should be hovering around 10% on their percentile, just because that's a nice round number, and I'm not a numbers person. All right, so we take our range value. We've subtracted the max and the min, and we come up with, say, I don't know, say that's now these ranges can vary. Let's just say, because I'm not a numbers person, it's $1,000 between your min and your max, okay? So right now that person should be at 10%, so that's $100. And now what they do is they take that $100 and they apply it to the salary range minimum. And that right there is your minimum equity salary. Okay? You take that and you compare it to your current salary. Hopefully everybody in this room is above. And since it's a minimum, we actually want it to be way above. Yeah. Now there's other things that you can do too when you're looking at equity. and this is something we can help you with too. You need to be able to compare data between fellow people in your fellow classifications. And again, this is a campus view. So for me, I would take all the ITC2s on campus. I'd grab all their salaries, and I'd compare, and I'd see where I sit. And the most important idea is like, where do I sit and compare to people who've been hired after me? Okay? And so first off, does my minimum equity salary, is that above my current salary? Yes? Okay, but I'm still not out of trouble yet. Now I need to compare it to what other people are making in the same classification with less experience. Okay? Yeah?
Where do you find the other, like the salaries for the other employees in your classification?
Right.
On campus? Where do you find that information?
We have that. We have access to that as the union, but you're also welcome to ask HR too.
Okay, so we get asked for a union.
Yep. Yeah, and I've been doing a slew of these, and so I'd be happy to run the, just, shoot me an email, say like, hey, here's my classification and your name,
Okay.
and I can give you a list. It takes about 5 minutes.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's really fast. Yeah.
One question, if you're the only person, can you compare within the system?
Yep.
The 23 campuses?
That's the next move. Actually, I'm guessing, haven't done this yet, but I'm guessing you're going to want to do the comparable CSUs. So, and you could probably I'm guessing that's going to be like Stanislaus, I think Sonoma. I think we're pretty close to Sonoma. All those campuses that are in that between 7,000 and 9,000 FTE range, you could compare to. Yeah, but you're right. There's some people that they're the only person on campus with that classification. So, so that's basically all I have as far as the presentation goes. But I guess the important thing is, bottom line, just always be checking. Always be following up with your salary every year just to make sure. I'll get it to a point where this will go on the CSUEU website so you can kind of look at those values. If you need something right away, if this is like saying, oh man, I think I'm way under, just email me, James Dufflefson here at CSUB, and I can give you, I can run up some quick numbers for you. I'd be happy to do that. So. That's all I got, and hopefully we can. We'll be in good shape after this.
Thank you. Please don't crash his email. Okay, so she's doing the part, Catherine?
I wanted to follow up with the equity increases for this year for employees in CSUEU units 2, 5, 7, and 9. There were 4 people that fell into the range, and they have been notified, and their raises have been given to them. So,
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it was like November 1st forward.
All right, I wanted to just say a couple of things. We get people that come to us who are frustrated and upset because of maybe some bullying is going on within their own areas, and people are feeling uncomfortable. And, for me, this union, we're all included. This is, we're all one big voice. And, picking on or ostracizing or bullying another person that you work with, that's not what this union stands for. We fight against those things. And it's, I get frustrated because I hear people who are within our union treating other people within our union poorly. So I wanted to just kind of put that in everybody's forethought, to just be kind to other people, treat other people the way you want to be treated. And the other thing is, for people that are all in the union and all cover an office, rotate, so everybody gets a chance to come to a meeting. Every other time, make sure you have office coverage so that everybody gets a chance to come to these meetings. Because there's some people on campus that aren't allowed to come to these meetings because the whole office goes. And so make sure that everybody has a chance to go to the meeting, and they can bring back information and share it with you. So that's also important, and that's another thing I wanted to bring in, so everybody has a chance to come and hear what we share with you guys. Does anybody have any questions? Are there any other discussion items? Complaints? Yes.
So, very soon, the minimum wage is gonna go up 50% in the next 5 years. So that means everybody in this room is gonna get a 50% raise, 50% deduction in salary. Not by our choice, obviously. So, what is our union gonna be doing to offset that? I mean, I put it down on that questionnaire that was sent out, hey, why is they get 50% raise, everything's gonna go up, so,
Right.
you might have to start thinking about that as a union,
Well, I know we're getting ready to go into regular bargaining meetings, and I can definitely bring that to them, and, we all get a chance to be heard. All the presidents will have a chance to be heard, and, there's something that a long time ago I taught parenting classes, and it says you may not get your way, but you'll always have your say. So we'll be heard, and it's going to depend on what the most prevalent issues are. And I see what you're saying, and I think that's a significant issue. So I can definitely bring that to them, and I don't know as a union what the plans are in that regard. So that would also need to be something that I would need to look into, because I haven't heard. So.
Yeah. And a sizable cost of living increase for everybody in the community, where it's, it needs to be addressed, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
We have a 5 years for it to take full effect. For the next 5 years, it's 10%, 10%, 10%. So everything in the state's going to go up 10% for the next 5 years.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, I'll bring it up. I'll definitely mention it and see what I can find. Our next meeting is right after the first of the year. I think it's the 4th and 5th, or the 5th, no, 6th and 7th, I'm sorry, 6th and 7th. So I'll find that out, and when we meet in January, I'll have an update for you guys when we sunshine the budget. And again, that's only going to be about a 30-minute meeting. We probably won't do lunch, just warning everybody ahead of time, but it'll be to come and yay or nay on the budget for 2017. And that has to be at least 30 days from today. So we'll get that out to you guys. Any other questions, concerns? Okay, we're gonna, Carrie and Marina. We need to do another group shot because the one that we took before, we need to scrunch in a little bit.
She's got to decorate for a function. We don't have
I gotta go to SRC.
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
Bye. Thanks for coming. So the last picture, several of us got cut off, so James has an iPad, and we're gonna all kind of scoot closer together so that people aren't around the edges.
But we can adjourn though.
Oh, is there any other questions? Anything else anybody needs to discuss? Okay, so yes, the meeting's adjourned. 12:41. You guys are welcome to stay, have seconds.